know, there's really something to be said for dueling. It's a way of keeping people polite and preventing people from saying stupid things they oughtn't say, and that they would regret saying to someone's face. That was a quote by the famous Ian McCullen of the Forgotten Weapons Society. Quite frankly, I couldn't have said it better myself. Dueling is an art as old as man himself, a tool passed down to us by the gods so that we may settle our grudges in a sophisticated manner. Sadly, however, our modern age seems to have lost its sense of honor, and with it, our way of defending it. Hello, I'm Hunter Zhang. I've killed a man once. And today, I'd like to tell you about how, if applied modestly and sensibly, dueling can, and must, come back in the year of our Lord, 2020. But first, a bit of history. Dueling is an ancient practice, and I do mean ancient. The very term derives itself from as far back as the Romans. In Latin, the words duo, meaning two, and bellum, meaning war, were contracted to duellum, or as we say, a duel, the war of two. For as far back as man's recorded history can stretch, there has been conflict, and two people sufficiently ready to quite quickly and absolutely put an end to that conflict. Whether it be the Vikings' Holmgange, the samurai's Keido, the medieval knight's judicial combat, or the ancient Indians' Yudadan, everywhere, and for as long as any sage can remember, man has practiced his war of two. However, while the blathering troglodytes of Hollywood may have you believe that these duels were all about over-the-top sword fights and violent skirmishes, I'll have you know that very rarely were duels ever conducted in such a manner, and oftentimes were made to not produce such ghastly results. For example, the historical publication Noted American Duels and Hostile Encounters recounts that in 1771, a very specific set of laws were drawn up and put into place by a committee of gentlemen at the Clonmel Summer Assizes. These men had gathered from all across Europe with the express purpose of making sure that a man could not blatantly commit murder and call it a duel. This set of laws would come to be known as the Code Duello, the most modern set of guidelines following predecessors such as 1220's Sachenspiegel or the 15th century Pas d'Armes. The Code Duello, or the 28 Commandments as it was often called, would be staunchly enforced in places like Ireland, England, Italy, Germany, and France. It was even required that every gentleman keep a copy of it within his pistol case. Any failure to follow these guidelines would result in the impunity to criminal charges being voided. America would stick to it sometimes, but you know how that goes. In addition to these rules of conduct, nations and individuals would add their own stipulations to further drive safety in duels. For example, in France, it was made illegal to duel with pistols, as they were deemed too deadly. In those times, gun wounds were prone to cause infections such as sepsis, and would lead to unnecessary death and suffering. And, as you might be able to tell, I'm not someone who likes unnecessary death and suffering. Another example would be the rule of first blood, which states that the first man to injure the other, no matter how minor, was deemed the victor, and the duel is settled. During the 18th century, it was estimated that only 1 in 6 duels ever resulted in serious injury, and only 1 in 14 in death. However, no matter how scarcely it may have occurred, these duels did create such results, and during the Enlightenment period fell under heavy criticism. It was this criticism that ultimately led to dueling's loss in popularity, and eventually its outright banning. But to that, I say this. Has violence stopped since the banning of duels? Have fights, arguments, conflicts all but vanished since the 19th century? Of course not. No matter what laws or punishments may be put into place, no matter how much we may tell ourselves to just talk it out and be peaceful, Modern man will always find ways to settle their grievances in a physical manner. The only difference, however, is that these modern skirmishes are unregulated, uncontrolled, nigh on savage, and will almost definitely result in serious injury or death. All manner of weapons could be used. In these fights, unequal matchups are quite the norm. Dueling, on the other hand, offers a safer and much more regulated alternative to the knuckle-dragging peasant practice of a world-star street fight. With an updated set of laws, known as the Codex Duellum Modernum, a name that I came up with, modern society may have its modern duel. One in which death and serious injury cannot occur, and regulation and accountability is key. Let's take a look at how a modern duel would occur under the laws of the Codex. One, before a duel could even begin to occur, the two individuals must first be licensed to do so. No one under the age of 21 may be able to apply for said dueling license, and any who do must undergo a process of background checks and psychological assessment, not unlike what one would experience when trying to purchase a firearm. With said individuals now licensed and approved, they can now put in an application to the DMV, Department of Manly Vendettas, where the nature of the duel will be stipulated. All duels must undergo an approval and supervision from the DMV, or else it is considered illegal and treated as a crime. Keeping in line with the original Code Duellum, the challenged and/or offended party has the right to choose the weapon. Fisticuffs or barehanded combat, or bladed combat are all allowed, but dueling with firearms or projectile weaponry is strictly forbidden. If the combatants agree on fisticuffs, then victory will be decided much like a match of MMA. If it is a duel of blades, then the rules of first blood are applied. After the duelists have agreed upon the nature of their duel and have been approved, they will meet again at a DMV supervised location. Their seconds, which are trusted individuals chosen to represent the respective duelist, will meet to negotiate an apology or compromise. And if none can be reached, then the individuals shall duel. With these regulations in place, I believe that dueling's resurgence will quell outbreaks of public violence, as the general populace will now be able to settle their grudges and disputes in a direct and sporting manner. Furthermore, I believe that the legalization of dueling would cause people to think twice about how they speak and treat others, lest they find themselves looking down the business end of a government-sanctioned saber. So, as a parting word to you future duelists, I say this: let dueling's rich and honored history be your teacher. Let the fire in your heart be your guide. And may your strike always land true. Cheers.
You ready to do it for reals now?
You weren't recording that whole time?
No.
You're joking.
I'm playing it.
I was about to jump over and tackle you. There's no way I was getting a better shot.